I want to apply to be a student in September. In the space of 2.5 hours, I've completely fallen in love with this place. The students here are the luckiest students, and I think it's great, isn't it? I mean, it makes me feel slightly, I'll say envious, not jealous. There's no bitterness in that. But I do, it just reminds me of my drama school corridors. This is very similar. I went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and very similar Rabbit Warren setup. And to walk down a corridor, I was just a mere drama student, but to walk down a corridor and hear a cello in one room and a flute in the other and an opera singer in the other, it was so inspirational that you felt part of something bigger. And in a way, I'm glad I went to a drama school that was attached to a music college as well, because it was a different environment to friends of mine who went to smaller drama schools. To have that all-encompassing energy was great. And of course, come the musicals, which were once a year, we had a ready-made orchestra. So no, walking through these corridors reminds me of my time at Guildhall all those years ago, and I hate the students here. There you go, in a nutshell. You don't deserve this. What have you done? Nothing. You get all this, you got your man before me, you got Don Letts next door, you got me. You're spoiled. No, it's great. And I've just done a lovely Q&A with you, and I'm going to get all goosebumpy now. It's not about, giving back. It's not about that, because I'm not giving back, they're giving me. Because you sometimes get a little bit jaded. When you get to my age, you get a little bit jaded about being in the profession, and you start taking it for granted and being complacent. And as I was saying earlier, Tim, losing a little bit of the flame. So when I come and give these talks, I'm not giving back. They're reminding me of that student I was all those years ago. So they're giving me, they're recharging my batteries, and listening and hearing their questions and their contributions. And even in the corridor now, they wanted to know, and that hunger, it connects with that little drama student that I was 4 years ago. So I'm not being a charity here. I'm coming here, I'm like the Dracula sucking the young blood. We won't go down there, but you know what I mean. Terrible, dangerous metaphor, but you know what I mean. So I love that these students have chosen this course. And I don't mean course as in a course, this course for life, the future. And it just instills so much admiration, jealousy we talked about, and energy. I think it's brilliant. My biggest note to all of you and all the students out there is, because I regret it, I regret the time I wasted. I know you start feeling it sounding like your dad or your granddad. But it's true, I'm sounding like my dad and my granddad. Don't waste the time you've got here. These 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Oh God, it's so difficult to avoid cliches, isn't it? Are the most important years of your life, because this is the springboard for your future. So you don't need to hear that. Well, you do actually, because I'm on the other end. Not at the end, but I'm like, there. And I wish I'd have appreciated, what's that saying, that wonderful saying? I wish I knew then what I know now. I so do. Brilliant. I mean, I'm fond of Nottingham anyway, but yes, to be a student here is a gift. It really is a gift. I think it's beautiful, and the studios, and that studio we did the Q&A, that was fantastic. God, they don't deserve it. Again, a teacher. My drama teacher at school, I'd never even heard the word drama. I didn't think it connected with the teacher. And I remember very quickly, it was raining, and when your kid's in school, no matter, come rain or shine, you get thrown out. And I always remember with my friends, wusses that we were, huddling around a corridor, and it was pouring rain outside. And we could see this grown-up coming down the corridor, and we tensed because we knew that any second we were going to be thrown out and thrown to the elements. And this grown-up, who I'd never, apart from, a great uncle, a favourite uncle, I'd never had a kind of easiness. He just floated by and went, all right, lads, and then carried on walking. And we were like, and he didn't kick us out. And I thought, wow, who's that? Who's that mysterious man that's just walked into my life? And I said, who is he? Why hasn't he kicked us out? He said, oh, he's the new drama teacher. And I said, what's that? He said, oh, he teaches acting. And that was the first time in my life, Tim, I'd ever had any inkling of interest, because I was meant to be a farmer. I was a farmer's son. Rubbish at academia, rubbish at sports. I was destined to be a farmer. Nothing wrong with being a farmer, all you farmers' children out there, but I was destined to be something I didn't want to be. I wanted to be something else, and I hadn't found it. He walked by, and I swear on my life, maybe I'm gilding the lily now, but I remember him coming down, and he kind of floated. He wasn't dressed like a normal teacher. He had purple flares. I always remember that. And they weren't flapping, but he had purple flares, long hair. He had a cool gait about him. He was like a rock and roll. He was like a rock star to me. And on the back of that, Tim, I inquired about drama club, and I went to drama club purely because I wanted to know I wanted to be like him. Didn't want to be like the other teachers. And he didn't let me down because he inspired me, became an actor. That was only the first stepping stone. And from that, I joined the local youth theatre and became a professional actor. But I reckon, had he not taught at that school, I wouldn't be sitting here, answering your questions. I really believe that, and I hope that all students have that teacher. But bottom line is, look for that teacher and keep hold of them, because they're rare and they can determine what you do for the rest of your life. Yeah, the read-through of something I'd written, Dirty Filthy Love, sitting around that table with all these top executives, and I was sitting with them. It was like being in the staff room, at break when you shouldn't be. And I was with all these people who'd previously, for the previous 20 years, employed me, and now I was sitting alongside them. And that was one thrill. And seeing this great cast of actors, including Michael Sheen. And Michael Sheen was playing me in this TV movie I wrote. So that was an outstanding moment in my life. That was a huge pinch-me moment. And hearing my words being spoken by these wonderful actors, that was one. Winning awards for that particular drama, going to Italy for the Pre-Italia because we were nominated, going on stage and being nominated for a BAFTA. So all that was great. But grassroots level, getting my first job, getting my first paycheck as an actor, as doing something I'd only ever dreamed about. And that's got to be, everyone's dream, isn't it? To do a hobby and get paid for it. So my first job was the North Cotton in Exeter. It was a play called The Offshore Island. It wasn't very good. I wasn't very good, but I was getting paid for it. So that was a huge thrill. And playing the Comedy Store as a comedian, being on the Comedy Store, the original Comedy Store in London, that was a huge thrill. I'm picking them out of my hat now, but, And I've just directed a movie. So being on day one on set, when everyone goes whoosh, and looks at you for the answers, and you don't have any. But that's the fear part of it. But the joy is when you actually speak and you find, oh, actually, I can do this after all. And so that was as big a thrill as the read-through was having. And headphones, I had my own headphones. I took so many selfies that first day. Didn't quite have the director. In fact, I did request the direct jokingly, and by the second day, someone had got white tape and it was pathetic. I ripped it down and put director on the back of the chair. And all I wanted to do that day was to sack someone. No, I'm joking. Sack a runner, because they're the lowest paid, they need the job, and they can't argue back. But I didn't do that. But it was a joy. Well, I started out, as we talked earlier, Tim, in theatre, and I spent 16 years in repertory theatre, including Nottingham and Playhouse on one occasion. And I think it's changed insofar as I had 16 years of employment from theatre. You know this, Tim, as an actor yourself. And they're all disappearing. They're becoming like the corner shop or the pub on the corner. They're fast disappearing. In my day, every town, pretty much any major provincial town, had a repertory theatre. And as an actor, you could make a living going from one, I went from Nottingham to Leeds to Harrogate to Glasgow to Edinburgh to Mould. And I made a living from theatre. A paltry living, but it was a living. And it seems to me, from what I can gather, that they're all fast disappearing. So that's what's changed. Is theatre is like the corner shop that's been taken over by your local Tesco. Or, they charge £3 more. Do you know that? They charge. You get all these old people who rely on these small supermarkets, and they're charging up to £3 more. I think it's disgusting. But that's another interview, isn't it? So damn you, your Tesco's and your Sainsbury's, for charging so much for that little person who can't walk anywhere. I think it's great. I mean, when I came off the stage, I smashed it, by the way. When I came off the stage, I saw this little guy with grey hair and a hat and a beard. Sorry, I said, God, he looks so like Don Letts. It was Don Letts. Don Letts followed me. Okay. What a great opportunity for these students to hear talkers like this gentleman that came in beforehand, and Don Letts and Stephen Graham and what's his name, Russell T Davies. I mean, it's just, we didn't have that in my drama school. I was telling Becky that in 3 years we had, I'm not knocking her, Judi Dench, which is great, but that was one time in 3 years, and yet you've got this. So I think whoever's programming this have got the finger on the pulse. I really do, because get the professionals, get the people outside coming in and telling the students what they did right, and more importantly what they did wrong, where they went wrong, because I wish I'd have had someone tell me, don't mess around, this is your chance to get it wrong, to get it right. Shall I tell you Responder. Have you seen The Responder? Martin Freeman is playing this copper, and it's definitive. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen. I know Martin, and he spent a year researching this character. He plays a Scouse cop, and I think the honesty of his performance is quite staggering. And I never post anything on Facebook, but I felt compelled to, because his performance is one of the best performances. I compare it to Happy Valley, Sarah Lancashire. For me, that's a definitive female performance in recent years, and I think Martin has brought along the male equivalent. I think it's brilliant. Written by an ex-cop, so it's so gritty and so entertaining and funny. It's got every ingredient I would imagine you can have in a TV series. My favourite film, you were about to ask, 9A, would be Bertolucci's Last Tango in Paris. He took risks in making that film, and Brando, I understood the phenomenon that is Brando, because that's my go-to film. It inspired me as an actor and as a filmmaker. There's a sequence where he just follows Brando and this girl around Paris, and it's so dangerous and so evocative, and I just thought, God, I understood great cinema when I saw Last Tango in Paris. That wasn't the question, I know, but I wanted to put that in. TV, The Responder, and film, or anything that Paul Thomas Anderson does. Licorice Pizza, that's out now. I just think Wes Anderson, I think we are in a honeymoon stage for cinema I've not seen since the late 60s, when New Hollywood, were turning out some fantastic films, Buster and Billy, Badlands, Easy Rider, and I think it's a wonderful time for cinema. Godfather a couple of years later, but I think because of Wes and because of Paul Thomas Anderson, I think there's some great films, and British films. What we're talking about, Dead Man's Shoes, God's Own Country, one of the most beautiful recent British movies by a guy who was a jobbing actor like me and you, Tim, and decided he wanted to write and direct a film about his life, brought up on a farm, a gay farmer, and directed this most. Francis Lee, look him up. Go and see God's Own Country. Well, I think it won best. I think it won BAFTA for best independent film a few years ago. There's some great films out there. I've just made a movie, and I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I need people to go and see it, called Boland's Shoes. And I I cast Timothy Spall in the role, in my leading man's role, and to work with him was quite brilliant because he's brilliant. And the actress is an up-and-coming actress called Leanne Best, who was in Line of Duty and Cold Feet. And I would say I'm not just saying, it sounds a bit cliche, but I honestly think I've ticked those boxes already, working with Timothy Spall and Leanne Best, who delivered my script. I don't know how they managed every beat, Tim. They managed it. It was almost telepathy. I was thinking, how are you managing? And it also made me respect actors. I hadn't really respected actors, and you don't until you're from the other side of the camera. And they were just what they brought out. And Mark Lewis-Jones, a Welsh actor, and Matthew Horn, Gavin and Stacey, he's in it as well. I just marvelled at how they brought my words to life and made them so much better. So I've answered that question by saying that I've worked with them now. I don't, it doesn't get any better than the people I've worked with. I'm just quite good at being evil. I'm quite good at being bad. And I kind of cornered the market in psychopaths years ago. I thought I was on the P for Puleston-Davies. It's not. It's for psychopaths. And I also, TV's a bit lazy. You kind of, if you're good in one baddie, you'll get asked back. Stephen Graham, you get to the point where you kind of typecast, but we're not complaining because, we get cast. So I'd like to do more comedy. I very rarely do comedy. I'm always playing the axe murderer. But I'd love to do a light-hearted comedy. Give me a sitcom, anyone out there, but I won't get cast as that. It's technique. I know. There's a great story about Albert Finney. Is it Finney or Alan Bates? Where it's told by a DOP, where he's rehearsing this monologue, and it's impassioned. Tears are flowing down. He's raging. It's the most dramatic, emotional speech you could possibly catch on camera, and he's giving it all. It's like it's Shakespearean, and then he suddenly stops in a second. Halfway through the speech, he goes, "Right, lads," and that's there, and then you go closer, and then picked up where he left off. It was 100% technique. It wasn't. He didn't give himself 10 minutes in the toilet trying to get into character. It was all technique, and that's what I do. I'm not living the person. It works for some people, but there's no mystique about acting. Bill Nye, another great actor, mentioned it in the Q&A. He was asked, "How do you get into character?" Because I've been told by my drama teacher that I can't get into character. I'm not doing it. He said, "I'm sorry, I haven't got time to do that. Because I've got to hit the mark, I've got to remember my lines, I've got to deliver the lines, I've got to be aware of the volume." So this mystique for drama students, I think, is wrong, and it's not helpful. Because most of us, we don't get into character. You don't. It's technique. So if you think I'm living a moment, it's technique. I know everything that's going on. If that person's delivered the line in the right way, or has been rubbish, or if I've delivered the line and I must remember to do that, all that, and the camera, we're on the close now, or they're moving in. That's all technique. There's not a grain of truth in it. That the truth. One actor said to me, my best mate, he said, "It's an awful thing to admit. It's partly true, but he said, you're the best actor I know who never listens." Which is not a compliment. And if it is, it's a backhanded one, because I suppose I should be listening, because the whole idea of acting is listening and receiving. But really, I'm only listening that much. I'm kind of reacting, and preparing my next line and the emotion that comes from that person. So it's trickery. It's being really good at being fake. Emotionally, you do. I mean, when you're shouting at someone, you need that energy, or if you're crying or if you're laughing. But it's not connected with the soul of the person. I don't get that. Some people do. You Daniel Day-Lewis's, who am I to mock that technique? But he lives the character. I don't know how you do that, because it's me. So if I'm emoting, I'm getting in the moment when you're shouting. But it's like anyone, when they're shouting, you're aware you're shouting. You're in that moment. That's what I'm doing when I'm shouting. And I'm doing it with a funny voice, be it Cockney or Geordie or camp or threatening. It's all technique. It really is, for me. And it works for me.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. Don't fix it if it's not broken.